from stage, I would love to jump off stage and go crowd surf and dive into the crowd. But I also don't want to get molested. So
Today we are ranking the albums of Arch Enemy, starting with Black Earth in 1996. Melodeath during a time where that sound was still leaning pretty heavily on the death side of the spectrum and hadn't quite blossomed into what it is today, for better or worse. Some really solid riffing, soloing, and harmonized leads, even if they feel like a carbon copy of what In Flames and At the Gates had already started at this point, but still giving some credit to the likes of Bury Me an Angel, Idolatrous, Cosmic Retribution, and Transmigration Macabre. But as much as I get pushback on this particular opinion, I think that Johann's vocals are pretty bad, with their often downright goofy delivery. That's the only thing that pulls these early albums down for me. The production is also kind of muddy, even though that's part of the charm of the time, I would say. Compare this, though, to like the Jester Race, which came out the same year. Good, but with better vocals, it might be great. I'm putting it at good. Follow that up with Stigmata in 1998. The vocals still aren't there yet on this one. I've come around on so many albums over the years on this front, but he still just sounds like straight garbage to me on some of these tracks, especially like Let the Killing Begin. That said, the riffs are still very good, and several solid moments on the kit too, like the title track. I also dig Beast of Man, Bridge of Destiny, Sinister Mephisto, and the piano and epic guitar harmonies on Vox Stellarum are very nice. Overall, it's kind of an important part of history for the band, for this genre, and so I am going to put this one also at good tier. I think I like this one slightly less. But moving on, we have Burning Bridges in 1998. Vast improvement on this one across the board. The Immortal is a great opening, and Dead Inside has a little Megadeth going on, complete with ripping solos. Guitar work in general really gets to shine here with tons of hooks, and the songwriting just feels tighter and more memorable. Still not their best work, and the vocals continue to be questionable in places, but a far cry from just how unlistenable some of them are on the first two albums. Also, this is the last one with Johann, with the wonderful Angela Gasso taking over next. I'm going to put this one at great tier. I own a physical copy of this one. It's something I've listened to probably since high school. But yeah, there's just albums I like even more. So next up we have Wages of Sin in 2001. So yeah, this marks the beginning of the Angela Gasso era, which I think is the band's best era personally. She's just a much stronger vocal presence than Johann. This was another album that was my introduction to the band, and Enemy Within continues to be my favorite Arch Enemy song to this day. What an incredible build-up with the piano into the pounding drums, and then that 10 out of 10 riff. Whenever there's a discussion of best album openers, this is always the first song that comes to mind for me. And fortunately, there are plenty of other great tracks here too, like Burning Angel with those dueling leads. The thrashy riffing on Ravenous sounds incredible, especially with them shifting to C tuning for this album. Love those big epic guitar harmonies. Savage Messiah shows some dynamics with that ominous bluesy riff slowly building into the hypnotic head bobbing of the chuggy part. The first Deadly Sin is yet another standout, contrasting the insane speed of the verses with the slow groove of the chorus. Angela sounding absolutely demonic on this one. Top fan rated album on Metal Storm, and easily my favorite of their discography as well. It is going to perfection. Y'all, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit the like button, and remember, as always, these are just my opinions. If you are a Johann stan, shout it from the rooftops. That is totally fine. Just be respectful. There's no objective ranking, you know? Makes the conversation way more fun when we disagree. But that brings us to Anthems of Rebellion in 2003. Another album I listened to a lot in high school side by side with Wages of Sin. Silent Wars makes for another killer opener, if not quite as epic as Enemy Within. Angela sounding absolutely feral. We Will Rise is another instant classic with awesome dynamics. Great use of synths, and that riff transitioning in the chorus makes it even more hype. Another song that's impossible to pick just one clip from. Dead Eyes See No Future has a cool, more melodic edge to the guitars, and then that surprise string section later on is a cool touch. End of the line rips, and the Meshuggah drumming on Dehumanization rules. I will say I've always found that one melody on I Can Feel Nothing to be kind of corny. It always makes me think of Don't Stop Believing. It's basically the same one, but I can get over it. Also not a huge fan of the whispering intro on Exist to Exit, but really these are like just little nitpicks on another banger, start to finish record. I'm also going to put this one at perfection. These are my long-time top two. They followed that up with Doomsday Machine in 2005. Another shredding start in Taking Back My Soul and Nemesis, the latter taking a more melodic turn towards the end. My Apocalypse has some fun Opethy start-stop riffs and then delves into doomier melodic sections. I Am Legend Out for Blood has a great changeover in the middle and a super shredding solo. Love that hype kind of later death-sounding guitar hook opening up the proggy hybrids of steel, and Macht Kampf gets me bobbing my head with the raging drums and grooving riffs. I know some people rave about this album, but I'm not as in love with it as the previous two since I've listened to those and Burning Bridges just a lot more, so I'm a bit biased. They lose me a little here and there, especially in the second half, but it's still a consistently enjoyable listen, and one that has grown on me over time. It is going to fantastic. Next up is Rise of the Tyrant in 2007. Now, speaking of growers, this one has grown on me quite a bit since the last time I did this. Blood on Your Hands is a fantastic opener, mixing bluesy grooves with the melodeath riffs and another of several epic solos. Also dig The Last Enemy, In This Shallow Grave, The Day You Died, Vultures, and the title track. Not a huge fan of I Will Live Again's chorus, but I love the carcassy vibes on the verses. And I also love the ominous chanting in the intro of The Great Darkness. Plenty of headbanger riffs. Again, I don't find them quite as memorable maybe as on my longtime favorites, but not far short. And again, every time I come back to it, this one just keeps getting better and better. The day I'm recording this, I was blasting it in my car on the way to the record store and having a great time. So this one is also going to fantastic. Then we got Khaos Legions in 2011. Angela wrote all the lyrics for the first time on this album, which would end up being her last fronting the band. Nice to hear some of the fun vocal layering again on Yesterday Is Dead and Gone. I know they were going for more of a pure live one vocal track sound with the last record, but I prefer this approach on the recordings. Angela just sounds so pissed. Digging the alternations of palm-muted chugs and earworm picking on Bloodstained Cross, although the melodic section dips into more corny territory again for me. Under Black Flags We March has that great bass rumble with some leads that remind me of Judas Priest, but my enjoyment kind of ebbs and flows. Vengeance Is Mine and Thorns in My Flesh are decent and more carcassy vibes on City of the Dead. Overall, I'd say the songwriting isn't as strong and the album is definitely bloated at 54 minutes. Plenty of standout moments with great riffing especially, but not as many songs I enjoy as much start to finish, though I will say that Cruelty Without Beauty and Cult of Chaos probably make that list. I'm going to put this one at okay, but I will say it's been hard because I feel like my good tier and okay tier with this band flip-flop all the time, depending on like my specific justification, how I'm thinking about things. Like I feel like these two are kind of more important, but I kind of enjoy going back to the okay tier ones more, so it just depends. All that to say, basically, they don't really have a bad album in my opinion. But moving on, we have War Eternal in 2014. Digging the symphonic intro on this one to Harold Elisa stepping in on vocals. And I had the realization today, too, that we are now entering a time frame where Elisa is the longest term vocalist for this band. I believe her stint is now longer than Angela's was. I could be wrong, but it's definitely close. And so it was just an odd thing that, again, made me feel quite old. Anyways, I tend to prefer Angela's screams overall, but Elisa does a great job mostly picking up right where she left off with equal parts aggression and triumph on Never Forgive, Never Forget. The title track is another solid entry into their more melodic side with a super catchy chorus. As the Pages Burn is a thrasher with a killer solo. Time is Black and On are brimming with more fun riffage. Down to Nothing gets downright brutal, and No More Regrets has some incredible tapping parts and more great soloing. On the flip side, this one also has some down moments. In particular, I find You Will Know My Name to be kind of cheesy with some questionable, sort of lame lyrics. And just in general, I find myself missing Angela on this record, as I don't think they'd fully adapted to Elisa's unique talents to this point. Still, this had the highest charts in the US and Germany, so people clearly enjoyed it, and it feels like a step up from the last one. I'm going to put this at great tier. They followed that with Will to Power in 2017. The band proving that they still have a few rippers up their sleeves, starting on a high note with the 1-2 punch of The Race and groovier Blood in the Water. The guitar hooks on both of these tracks seem to reach back to Wages of Sin. Same goes for the catchy The World Is Yours. Now on the downside, there's second single The Eagle Flies Alone, which fails to make a lasting impression on me, and the clean vocals on Reason to Believe feel very half-baked and out of place on this particular record. Elisa has proven herself at this point to be a fantastic singer, but again, I don't think that they had quite figured out how to properly implement that just yet. Murder Scene is good, Dreams of Retribution has more standout guitar work, and I absolutely love the surprise orchestral elements on A Fight I Must Win, even if it's not like the best track ever. Overall, not bad, but not great either. It's nice that it's a little bit shorter, but yeah, I ended up putting this at okay, but again, these these tiers flip-flop sometimes. That brings us to Deceivers in 2022. Handshake with Hell got me really hyped for this one. Incredible opener, and in my opinion, the best possible direction for the Elisa era. Again, like I said, she's a great singer, and this is where she really stepped up and proved that. She'll never be Angela, so I say embrace her unique talents in this kind of like heavy metal, power metal, clean territory, and just the potential to take the band in a whole new melodeath direction. And if that's not your bag, you've still got tracks like Deceiver, more in line with their classic thrash-inspired melodeath sound with guitars and riffs that go as hard and as fast as ever. In the Eyes of the Storm takes things down a bit for something slower and more melodic. I've heard this one compared to Eye of the Tiger, and I can definitely hear some of that in its DNA. The Watcher mixing thrash with a slightly folk-sounding swing to the choruses. Sunset Over the Empire is another very classic Wages of Sin sounding track. House of Mirrors opens with another throwback 80s heavy metal scream alongside some very era-appropriate riffs. It's not quite a perfect listen, but I'd say it's easily the best album of the Elisa era so far, and shows that this lineup is finding its own footing at this point. So I put this one at fantastic. I might even put it like up here. I don't know exactly where to put it. It's up there somewhere. And that brings us to Blood Dynasty in 2025. Another killer opener in Dream Stealer. That chorus has such an amazing 70s and 80s metal vibe to it, absolutely worthy of Judas Priest. I also always get my foot tapping to the thrashy Don't Look Down, getting lots of Wages of Sin and Anthems of Rebellion vibes from that one. Paper Tiger is another top-notch single with plenty of retro energy. This really does feel like such a great way to bring these old sounds to a death metal audience. Now, I will say that I'm a little bit more on the fence with some of these tracks, though, as with the more mid-paced Illuminate the Path. Elisa sounds great on these cleans as well, but it treads a little closer to the cheesy line than the fun line for me. A Million Suns and March of the Miscreants also give me mixed feelings. I love the drumming and some of the deeper, harsh vocals on the latter. Great solos, too, but I don't know. As a whole, it just feels like it's missing some of that it factor. Even the title track still falls short of past singles for me, as well as other singles on this album. It's my least favorite of the four. Note that these are all still very good tracks in my book. They just didn't quite get their hooks into me in the same way. The only one that feels like too hard of a swing for my taste is Vivre Libre, which does just come off as corny and out of place to me. But then they end things on a strong note with the rollicking The Pendulum and another absolutely killer single in Liars and Thieves, which feels like the perfect bookend with Dream Stealer. More of that like 80s thrash and heavy metal energy. Overall, another very solid album, lots of fun riffs, a good mix of styles, and Elisa continuing to step up and expand on both her harsh and clean vocals. Like, this album has both some of her most extreme and campy moments. Slightly more of a mixed bag than the last one, though. I enjoyed that one all the way through, whereas my enjoyment kind of ebbs and flows with this one in spite of its really high highs. So overall, I think I'm going to put this one at great tier, and as always, that could change with time. Y'all check out this playlist for more melodic death metal rankings, or this video for your personal YouTube recommendation. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.